everyone. As I already said, that my name is Zhenia Dulko. I am a Foresight Manager at the American Plan Association. I'm based in Chicago. This is where our headquarter, or some people call it American Plan Association National, is based. And today I will talk with you. This is a very interesting but a pretty vague title, Plan with the Future. But I will try throughout my presentation that will be approximately 40-ish minutes, and then to explain what does it mean. And then we hopefully will have some time for questions from you. So let's start. And I just very briefly will talk with you for about the APA. I'm sure most of you know about us. So we are American Plan Association. Basically, we are the biggest association of professional planners in the world, and we have around 40,000 members for now. And main goal, our mission, as you can see on the slide, is creating great communities for all. And basically, we are a place where our members can find useful information, can network, meet other planners, and find a lot of useful content for their professional practice. Additionally, we have our, leadership, our president, and a lot of different chapters, local chapters and divisions across the country. So basically, we also, you as a student, anyone as a student can join our organization for free. I highly recommend to use this opportunity, because then, after you are not student anymore, most likely you would need to ask your employer to pay our dues, or you pay by yourself. But while you're a student, everything would be available, which is sometimes behind the membership status. So I won't talk a lot about APA. Please feel free to go to planning.org if you want to know more. The only thing that I wanted to mention here, that additionally to what we provide as content and research and support for our planners, I am a planner, where we are very few planners in American Plan Association, which is weird, but we are association, and there are many my colleagues who are working with like finance and membership and so on. But I work as a researcher, as a planner here. And what is important from this perspective is that we have our American Institute of Certified Planners, and we provide certification for planners. If you want to do it just after your school is actually now available, you do need to have a couple of years of experience to be proved, but at the same time, you can take an exam pretty much after you graduate, because it will be pretty easier to be fresh with all this knowledge. And what is important, that just recent survey that we did with our membership proved that basically certified ACP planners, they earn more than others, and which means that this is like this, it's worth it at some point. But as I said, if you want to learn more, go to planning.org. This is where we have all the more extensive information from our membership team. But me, I work as a planner, I work as a researcher here, and I'm a manager, I overlook APA Foresight program. And I want to talk with you about strategic foresight today, about external drivers of change, things that are impacting our communities, things that are impacting our professional practice, why it's important to embrace the uncertainty, not to be afraid of the future, and how to work with all of it as a planner, and how to use all these available tools that are developed somewhere out there, but we as APA try to nail down it, to tailor it to our plan professionals. So APA Foresight program, basically planning.org/foresight. This is our landing page where you always can find everything that I will mention today. But let's start with the foresight in general, just to lay down the baseline, yeah, what we're talking today about, and then I will probably want to convince you why it's important because sometimes we like dismiss the importance of the future. So if we in with our APA foresight program, we explain foresight or we define foresight as a process of learning with the future. Yeah, so the future can be a great tool to learn and not just to take it as for granted or just like to be more like afraid or unknown. It brings us a lot of opportunities to learn something new. We also as a foresight practitioners, the goal is to understand external drivers of change. I will talk a bit more what does it mean in order to prepare for the future uncertainties, to prepare ourselves, but also to prepare our communities. And as I said, I will explain a bit more into details a bit further. So, but before that, let's talk about why it's important to work with the future and acknowledge uncertainties which are out there. So I think that this is now based in DC, in Smithsonian American Art Museum, and I loved it when I saw it there a couple of years ago, this installation, because I think that this actually gives us this phrase or this statement gives us a lot of to think about as planners, yeah. And when we think about it a second, that this present moment where we are now in whatever October 30th, 2025, yeah, this moment used to be an unimaginable future. And I am talking with you on Zoom now. I'm not there. I didn't need to travel because I cannot this time, but we still can, meet and talk with each other. And this was unimaginable not so long ago, yeah. And we as planners, our work is to imagine the future. Yeah, definitely our work is not only imagining the future but bringing it there. Yeah, to like try to bring the community from A to B, from where they are to the better future that they envision. However, it requires imagination, and we will talk a bit more about imagination and why imagination is a pretty important skill for planners these days, especially these days when the level of uncertainty is the highest it was ever it ever have been. So, but there are many actually interesting examples, yeah, how things change pretty fast. I mean, in terms of historical time, yeah, maybe 100 years doesn't seem so fast, but still, and how things nowadays also is a good opportunity for us to think about them as a significant drivers of change. So, my example is a phone, yeah, telephone. So this is literally the print ad for Western Electric, and they advertise this beautiful phone that you can buy and use and be connected, yeah, to your relatives and to other people in your community or even overseas. And if we jump only, and it was like 1925, literally 100 years ago. But if we jump in 2025, this is the ad for the latest iPhone 17 with AI, with all these like crazy cameras that can give you all the tools that you can have in your pocket, like literally a huge, powerful computer. And it's only there, like very tiny, tiny piece of metal with some chips there, and it gives you all these opportunities. So basically, when we were in 1925, I'm not sure that people could ever imagine that in 100 years we will be pretty much here with iPhones and with all these new functions that it creates. And it's important for planners as well, because it's not only the phone, it's not only the private sector, Apple, whatever. It's about how we changed our perception of life, and how we, as residents of some urban or rural built environment, basically, how we change our behavior. And smartphones forever change how we communicate and work for sure, how we travel a lot. I think that this year, in the next trend report, we are talking about tourism, and how the tourism is changing in the US, and Instagram is changing tourism significantly for years already, yeah, because of the phone, yeah, that is available. We definitely move around the city very differently with Google Maps, with Ubers and Lyfts, with rideshare services. We shop and play. This is, I don't need even to explain. I think everybody is shopping now online a lot. We definitely meet our loved ones, on many digital platforms. We meet new friends and many, many other things. Yeah. And this all changed because of one technology that came, established itself as one of the most important ones, that everybody should have a phone. The kids, when they're 5, 6, they want to have a phone already. So it's like a lot of questions out there, but still, this technology changed significantly how we perceive our life, how we perceive our communities, and how planners need now to plan the future of the community. And, I think we can see a lot of similarities with the new technology that is coming, yeah. And here's a photo of Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, that, break through this like wall of like AI being something futuristic technology or something very practical for some specific software and so on. From here in 2022, it jumped to be like in our daily life, present in our daily life. And this is here we are, we are in 2022. Who knows what will be not in 100 years? Who knows what will be in 5 years? So that's why it's very important to, understand what is happening out there, not directly in our communities, in our planet world, when we deep into day-to-day tasks, but also understand that things are changing, and some technological changes especially might impact our life and our work as planners significantly. So we as planners, when we are tasked to plan for the future, we quite often work with three time frames or three dimensions of time. Yeah, we work with past always. It's important to know what was out there. We all prepare these profiles of our communities in the beginning of every plan. We do a lot of research to understand what was there, what is the data, to be sure that we don't miss some important learnings and important lessons from the past. Yeah. However, we always work in the current moment. We don't, this is again interesting, the paradox or the unique feature of the planning. Yeah. While we are planning, the reality is still happening. And that's why we always need to be present in the moment, understanding what is happening, what projects already are there. So we will include them in our plans. Yeah. However, we are always, maybe even have this pressure from the future, pressure of uncertainty, yeah, because who knows what is out there. Especially now, it feels that literally it's so hard to plan the next day or the next week or the next month with all this accelerated pace of changes, both technological, but societal, political, and so on. The future is always there when we plan. Yeah, but it's up to us. Is it like a threat, or is future an opportunity for us as planners to learn something from it and also to use it? So, this is a bit of from the future studies theory, but this cone explains a lot how we understand the future as foresight practitioners, and it gives me an opportunity to tell you one of the most important statements is that there is no one future. When we talk about the future, we always use plural. We talk futures because there is no one future. There are so many different possible, plausible, probable futures out there. And it depends on us where we will, end. As a community, as a person, on the personal life, you also imagine this. Yeah, there are many different branches of your scenarios, and also there are many different scenarios where your community will be in 10 years if you do some comprehensive planning for them, for example, or some climate adaptation planning, them some long-term planning. Yeah. So basically, as you can see, I put here an example of like the star is the vision statement in whatever you give me a comprehensive plan. It's only one probable, plausible, possible future. There are many of them. And if we don't acknowledge that there are many of them, or if we don't know what are these futures possible and pretty much probable, some of them, we really give us, we like set ourselves for the failure more than for the success. um, and I hope that this is also this lecture is a great opportunity for us to bring future to the table, and talk more and more about it during the professional education as well in planning, because I also, like, I graduated like 3 years ago from the University of Illinois Chicago, and so pretty much fresh knowledge, for a fresh memory of being a student at the grad level, the grad school, planning and policy. So we definitely are well trained to work with the past and present. However, I literally don't remember a lot when we talked about the future, more like, as a way to learn something, less than like about one vision, one preferred future vision, ignoring all plausible futures. So I mean, it's not necessary that it's happening everywhere, but this is more like a status quo. That's why with APA, with our APA Foresight program, we try to change the status quo and to talk more about different ways or tools that foresight, strategic foresight, future literacy can bring us, and advance our professional planning practice. Additionally, it's important to mention that planning for the future, for one future, we try to, change this perspective and talk more like planning with the future, for the future. And I explained that with the future, it means that we learn from the future. We learn what is out there. We embrace uncertainty more than just like, okay, it's one scenario, one vision. We try our best to get there, but most likely we won't be there. However, when I talk about strategic foresight, I don't equalize it to strategic planning, which is, way more common tool. We all know how to do strategic planning, and probably, have some projects around it during your study. However, foresight and strategy are two parts of one process, in pursuit of success at a future time, And absent, if the foresight is absent, strategy is blind to contextual change, to all these external drivers that will impact your future, and is definitely, not the best idea. However, when the strategy, is absent, when we don't have a concrete goals and tasks and projects and, understanding of the action plan, foresight becomes like a speculation, and definitely it might be like not very convincing, yeah, when you talk with your community, just to be in the future, talk about the future without understanding how we can get from A to B, yeah, and what will be this preferred future, the one that actual community wants. So also here, I probably will mention a bit, I don't have like a separate slide, but we didn't create this, foresight framework. Yeah, foresight is a pretty much established practice. It originates from military practice, around the beginning of the Cold War, where they started creating different scenarios for different outcomes, and nuclear outcomes as well. But around early 70s, as far as I remember, this practice of scenario planning, of understanding external drivers of change, found like its way to private sector, huge businesses and corporations, they started using Foresight as a part of their business development. And it actually is there, yeah, and you can have even a degree in strategic foresight at some universities in the US. But we as planners, we are not military. We don't work with military goals, and we don't work with private sector goals. We work with public good. We work in the public field and the public sector a lot, mostly, yeah. Like no matter you are in private practice or you work for the municipality or county or state, whatever, you most likely deal with the public sector. So that's why we, with APA, decided like, okay, it's not enough just to copy paste, foresight tools from private sector. We do need to understand how to nail down these tools for our purposes as planners who work with public good. And this is our more or less like a diagram, simplified one that reflects all some like the most developed tools that we work and we not teach, but we try to like popularize, I would say, with our practice here at APA. And as I said, I will probably go a bit through each of the tools for you to know, but there are way more information and there are way more time I need to talk in depth about each of it. So, if you want to learn more, always, I'm happy if you can, if you want to reach out and I can give you more information, more resources to talk. But basically, everything starts with, how from today to get to this one preferred future, because we definitely need to have some one idea where we want to get, yeah. But this idea should be, evaluated based on all these possible plausible futures, yeah. And this is where horizon scanning, we call it as like a research process, is happening. So basically, the horizon scanning process that we are practicing here at APA is understanding external drivers of change and emerging trends and signals that might impact our communities. And the result of this almost 9 months long research process, like it's annual based process, we launched it around February. We're now in active phase of already finalizing the research, analyzing the results, and basically coming up with a trend report with the manuscripts for the new trend report for the 2026 report. However, today I will mostly talk about our this year trend report, yeah, that is normally presented and launched in January every year. So this is, as I mentioned already, the result of our research process. This trend report for planners is the big publication. It's around 100 pages with a lot of different trends and signals that are structured around 3 time frames, just for us to understand how to put things around, And when we talk about act now, prepare, and learn and watch, they don't have very distinct time frames. We don't talk about like act now trends that will impact the next 10 years or prepare the trends and signals that will impact next 20 years. It's pretty, vague. Mostly we put things in act now when we as planners can do something about existing persistent trends. And everything else is going in prepare. Learn and watch is the section that quite often we put things there that are signals, not trends, the things that are out there, not like, everywhere. It can be one city, one country practicing something, but something such important that it's better to know about it, because if it's true, it might be a game changer. And AI, by the way, was there at some point, and now we all understand that we are in act now in AI era, that we even talked in the previous trend report in 2024. Yeah, so now we don't even talk separately about AI because it's everywhere. Yeah, it's not like one trend, it's already everywhere, impacting a lot of different fields. And this publication is free. You can easily find it on our website or just Google it. We encourage you to look through it, just like, stop on some random page and start reading. Don't do it from the beginning to the end. It's a bit overwhelming. It's a lot of information. And we talked about the professional practice of planning in the US mostly. So we try to nail down everything to our local context. However, sometimes we, try to bring some international examples as well, because some things, are there out there, and it's great to know. It's good to know that some people already came up with some solutions. And this year, definitely was a bit different than we imagined it when we prepared our trend report in late October and November 2024. And we all know that there was an election, and we had a new president that became a president in January this year. And we start, seeing a lot of different rapid changes. Some of them are obviously not reflected in this trend report. However, we try to, take some brief overview in this report of some basic or some like main policies and legislation that can come as a result of new administration. But we definitely we are like our predictions and our like ideas what can happen didn't like are not so relevant anymore, I would say. And this is completely fine, because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't predict the future, and this is not the goal. The goal is to be better prepared for different outcomes, and I will talk about a bit more about all these like different outcomes and how to use it. It's very important that in the trend report you can find the page how to use the trend report as a tool, because we encourage everyone to use it for your own purposes before just like, taking everything just from here, So before you take any trend, you do need to prioritize it as a planner that has specific geographies, that works with specific community. Yeah, some trends are not relevant in on the East Coast. Some trends are relevant here on Midwest, or maybe on the West Coast, or maybe in Arizona or Nevada only. But some of them, most of them, are in some way relevant everywhere. But you do need to nail down it to your own geography and your own context, which is very important. And then we can start thinking how these trends and signals inform our other possible futures. And here comes scenario planning. I'm sure that, a lot of different scenario planning techniques are out there. I worked during my studying, I worked with normative scenario planning a lot during my studio. However, in this case, when we work with scenario planning in the Foresight framework, we use exploratory scenarios. Yeah, and this is a more distinct, very specific type of scenarios. Because the goal is to give us some new stories or new angles how to look at the future, at the possible futures. And I will explain in a bit how we are coming with these scenario metrics and how you can use it. So I want it to be a bit more practical, because maybe it will inspire you to do this for some of your projects. So I will give the full slide of this image. You also can find these scenarios in the trend report. So feel free to, if you don't see all the text or something, just, you will have access to these specific slides as well, no worries. But I want to talk how we are using these scenarios to explore some futures, some stories, that can happen. So basically, first, we work with some trends. We need to define some trends that we want to intersect. And I will explain in a second how we do this. But let's start with trends. First, the first trend here that informed this particular scenario metrics is living with and dying from heat. Yeah, and we definitely, it's not a secret that, global warming is happening, climate change is happening, and the planet becomes hotter and hotter, and we can see it in many different places around the US already. And we see that heat it becomes more and more underlying cause of death for many people, as I said, in many different cities, not only in the southern states. So that's why this is one thing that is happening, a persistent trend, not the newest one, but I would say the severity of it, the level to what extent it's now a problem is raising, definitely. The other thing, the other trend that we explore in this scenario matrix is electrification of everything. We definitely are going to decarbonization, and this is like the global agenda. No matter where is the federal government in it for now, it's still happening, yeah. And we, on the local level, do a lot of efforts, and probably will continue doing them about like electrifying our transport, electrifying our grids, and all this like households, and trying to bring more clean energy sources to these grids, which we are actually pretty much we're doing successfully. And the clean energy sources are way cheaper now than oil and gas in the US, even now. But also, it requires us a lot of new materials to do this electrification and this new mining. And for example, lithium that we need for batteries is also a big challenge, yeah. And some of it cannot be just found everywhere. We need there are specific places. This photo is from Europe, I think, from I don't remember the country, but some like Central Europe country where it apparently might become the big source of lithium for all European Union. And people were protesting because they don't want to become a huge mine. They want to live their life healthy and nicely, and they don't want people to drill everywhere and like to in order to get this lithium there. So this is a trend, and how this scenario matrix is developed. So basically, we need to have some time frame. So in our case, we decided, okay, we talk here about the next 10 years, yeah, 2035. And then we intersect these two trends, but in order to do it, we need to define critical uncertainties. And as you can see, minus plus, this is what we mean by critical uncertainty. And it doesn't, reflect negative or positive outcomes. Yeah, it just reflects opposite outcomes. Yeah, so in the case of trend living with extreme heat, we decided to look at it from the planning perspective. Yeah, we as planners, in one case, in one critical outcome, in 10 years, did a great job designing communities for heat, at least adapting communities for heat, and in other case, we didn't do anything. Maybe not our fault, but nothing was done. And on the horizontal axis, you can see the two different uncertainties where in one case we have the abundance of renewable energy and electrification of everything is happening. It's like, we don't need to worry about energy. It's there and it's cheap. And on the other side, we are pretty much in status quo or even closer to the current reality, where we are encouraged to use fossil fuels and as a primary source of energy, but we are definitely running out, and we have a lot of emissions based on it. And the third trend, which is more like to bring a bit of fun to this, because storytelling should be entertaining, yes, should be interesting. You should like catch some attention of your audience. So we brought the trend of like increasing number of pets in American households as a trend that helped us to visualize these scenarios, these stories, yeah. And apparently, as you can see, we have way already, like the trend is that after 2020, we have the first time in our history that we have more households with pets, not only with dogs, However, I'm a dog owner, so I'm like, support more dog parks and so on. However, with general pets, whatever we define it, more households with pets than with small kids under 5 years. So this is, it's not bad or good, it's just a fact. But this is a photo from San Francisco, by the way, where it is actually the reality. People like treat their dogs a lot as kids. And as a final outcome of this, intersecting scenario trends and creating this critical uncertainties, we came up with four different scenarios. Yeah, and when we talk about that planners design communities for heat, I'm talking now about the upper right quadrant. Um, and we have abundance of renewable energy and electrification of everything. Yeah, we live in maybe we can we can say that this is a preferred future, maybe not, but it's still hot. It's not going anywhere. It won't reverse. However, it's not it's manageable, yeah, because we managed to create infrastructure. We managed to bring a lot of different clean energy sources and basically make our cities more heat resilient with more efficient cooling systems and try to bring opportunities for people to stay cool, to stay healthy, and less deaths from death toll from the heat. And on the opposite side, it's not always opposite side. It can be whatever scenario you have. But we have heat has this fury, and it's a status quo but on steroids. Yeah, where it's like it's not good because our infrastructure is not very heat proof. It's melting literally. Train tracks are melting, and this is not a joke. So and a lot of things coming out of this assumption that if we don't do anything as planners or as decision makers about the infrastructure and about our cities, public transit especially, and if we are using only fossil fuels and no electrification is happening and energy is pretty expensive, we might end up not in a good place. This is an example of how you can use exploratory scenario planning for your needs. It's a very good tool in many planning tasks, and one of it is when you are beginning the comprehensive planning process, or you are rethinking or updating your comprehensive plan, or whatever big long-term plan is out there. It's really a great tool to bring people together and to use it as a part of your participatory program and effort. I can see that I don't have a lot of time left, probably approximately 5 minutes, so I maybe go a bit faster through some things, but I really want to present some practical tools for you today that can, convince that strategic foresight is a framework that you might consider learning more about. So, the other thing, which is like the other tool, is backcasting. I won't stop too long, but because we as humans, we quite often do this, but sometimes we don't use it as planners, but we should. This is basically a part of the process where when we already know all these possible plausible futures, and when we as a community, as a group, define some preferred future where we want to go, how to get there based on the future, not based on where we are now. Yeah. And this is a simple example I always give to understand better what is backcasting. Is like, imagine you need to catch a flight to whatever, New York or to Chicago, and you need to get there. You know what will be the future. When the flight is coming, when it's scheduled. So you basically plan from that moment to the moment where you are, when you need to get up, when you need to go to the airport, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is also an approach that we can use as planners for our planning process. And the final, more like the most comprehensive, the most complex one, because it has a lot of different ways how to work with testing existing plans and how to create agile plans. I also don't, unfortunately, have time to stop too much on it, but we are still developing these topics as well with APA. We don't have a lot of on it for now, but working there. So uh, it's very good when we have the task to work to create a new plan. But what to do with existing plans? And majority of communities have a lot of existing plans that are still relevant, and they are in action, I would say. But they might be not so relevant anymore because of this accelerated pace of changes, technology changes, community changes, and so on. So Foresight can help there as well, and we can basically test existing plans against all these different plausible scenarios that we developed in the process of exploratory scenario planning. Yeah, and you can take your strategic goals, any random goal that you have, and just imagine and test it against any random scenario that is there. Will our goal even make sense if in 10 years we will be in scenario B? And so on and so forth. Yeah, this is like a very simplified version what you should do. This is like in a private sector when companies try to do this, it takes them like sometimes months to understand and to come up with some conclusions. Will these goals be relevant or not in some, distant future? But I understand that in the case of commuting on the city level or whatever scale we have, it also will take a lot of efforts and a lot of team efforts and time. But still, in a nutshell, this is how you work with the existing plans, and this is why exploratory scenarios is a great tool, no matter you are starting from the scratch with a new plan or you have existing plans that you want to update and want to make them more relevant. So this is our final, this is now, hopefully you remember a bit better, you understand a bit better what this diagram means and what it's about. And I really I want to emphasize again that the goal of the foresight and the goal of like working with the future, learning with the future, and planning with the future for the future is not to know what is out there specifically, because there is no way how we can know. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't predict. And if we even do predict, it doesn't make too much sense in this new reality. But the goal is to be prepared for alternative outcomes. And when we know what these alternative outcomes might be, we definitely can act in reality, in now, yeah, where we work and plan something for our communities. We can act accordingly to all these alternative outcomes, not only accordingly to our bright, nice, idealistic, quite often vision that excludes a lot of forbidden futures. We as foresight practitioners quite often call them forbidden futures. Yeah, the futures that we don't want to think about, futures that we don't want them to come. Unfortunately, if we don't want them to come, it doesn't mean that they won't come. Yeah, and this also gives us more restrictions and opportunities. So I encourage you to think about all possible plausible futures, no matter how you feel about them, because they might come, and it's better to be prepared than surprised by the future that is coming. And I think this is all I have. Thank you so much. I'm on 43 minutes time on my timer, and I think that we can open the discussion for some questions if some is there.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful presentation. Does anyone in the room have a question? Yes. Do you want to come up here? Yeah.
Sorry, we have this
The
technical.
audio in this room is
It's okay, I understand.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Victor from the audience. Just wanted to thank you for the presentation and ask you something. Don't you think that maybe in teaching plans could be included, because what you said through the presentation takes me back to undergrad or master's courses, where you usually start by talking about the precedents and the antecedents always, which isn't bad itself, but wouldn't be also a good option to consider all of this future that could happen in teaching plans so that planners have this mindset in themselves. So this maybe could be, I don't know, initiative.
Exactly. I'm like, I
So they,
hope this is why we are using our time and we are traveling around the country to different chapters and universities to talk about this because this is exactly what you say. Yeah, we like it would be great to talk about this, how future can be our learning, opportunity more than just like what we do as a part of some planning process when we come up with some vision and vision statement and so on. So I really appreciate that you have this inspiration, and I can tell, for example, that some universities already do this. I've been to University of Cincinnati earlier this year, where they have a planning studio based on our trend report. That's why they invited us to for the review because this is also fun. Actually, it is fun. It's not only, everything, not everything should be very serious. Yeah, sometimes you do need to use some speculation in order to come up with better stories, yes, with better scenarios that will be more convincing for your community. And if you can use speculation as a method, then you can, build a whole studio project around one specific trend. And what if it was one team there that they started, the premises, the assumption was, what if we will start developing a space industry in Ohio, in Cincinnati specifically. And it was interesting what they planned for this possible future.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone in the chat have a question? We've got another live audience request, but chat, do you guys have anything to say? If not, I'll let Homayun give our next question from the audience.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. It was amazing. And actually, it's interesting because at UMD, we have a class called for comprehensive plans. And actually, it's taught by David Ross, and he actually is from like APA. And
Yeah.
this felt like the sequel to what he taught us, like because like you showed Amy Webb, and he was working with the cone of uncertainty in that case. But now, like, I feel like when you explain this more, so okay, maybe if that course could be expanded, that would be interesting to be added to that. And
Cool.
yeah, because this I think this is a real important issue in planning because we have a lot of drivers of change, as you mentioned, the AI and everything. But we still don't know what to do with them. But to be honest, when you were saying in the beginning that planners we are thinking the future, I kind of feel like we are being left behind because what we do now is basically future is happening. We're just like how can we put it in the
Yeah.
community? How can we find its place there? I kind of feel like we're kind of falling behind.
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't include this recent quote that I found in some book about the foresight that actually you're right. Yeah. I mean, on the personal level, we feel that we are falling behind the active participation in the future. Yeah. It feels that somebody out there is always like deciding what our future will look like. Yeah. And we are just like, it's more top-down solution for us. But at the same time, it seems that one of the authors of like Foresight practice, said this recently, where it's like Foresight actually brings us this agency of being more proactive about the future than reactive, what you specifically describe. Because when we imagine different options, it gives us this, feeling that we can at least try to, go somewhere else, yeah, and end up in the, some different future than it's predetermined, whatever it means. Yeah, it's like we can talk a lot about determination, but in this case, what I mean that is foresight practice and scenario planning gives this at least the level of like on the feeling level, yeah, of like how you feel as a planner, as a human, what you can personally or collectively do about the future. Not only like, as you said, just take everything that is out there because somebody said that you must do this in this way. Yeah, this probably is a good way to like, this decentralize the future, I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll ask, I think, the last question. The one question that sticks out to me most is how do you identify which trends are the most important?
Good
Not just
question.
identify like if it's a trend or if it's not a trend, if it's just a blip or a fad.
Yeah.
But also when you probably have hundreds of trends, but then how do you determine how do you rate the relative like consequence or effect that they have on those potential future outcomes?
Yeah, thank you so much. I literally, as I said, I can talk another hour about like how we do it because it's almost 9 months process. But in a nutshell, we have a team of researchers here. Obviously, it's a small team. I mean, five, 6 people. But to be sure that we bring a lot of things in our like cone, and we like filter things, and we won't exclude something because we just don't know. We have a group of people that we call this group is APA Trend Scout Community. And this is international group, around 60 plus now participants that we meet with them quarterly, once in 3 months throughout the year. And this is a group of planners, not planners, people who are futurists, students from all over the world, different experts in field that are relevant to planning. A lot of Americans, obviously, more than two, like probably 2/3, but 1/3 is international. We have like people from New Zealand, from Australia, and from Europe, where we basically ask them to bring us all their observations. And as you say, not all observations are trends. Some of them are just signals, and some of them are just some facts that might be random. And to understand what is happening and to determine is it important or not, we have a series of prioritization workshops as a team and then with our group where we start gathering everything, analyzing, understanding what is like relevant, what is important, and also the most important part that we do and why we do it on the national level with APA, that we try to understand what planners can do about it, and is there anything planners can do about it. Yeah, that's why, for example, there are so many trends, big ones, and signals in like biotech, for example. Yeah, but it seems so like not connected, to like our scope of responsibility. That's why, for example, we like don't talk so much about them. Mostly like just to mention that it's happening. Maybe it just somehow will impact maybe some local economic development at some point, but mostly probably you won't be into it. However, we definitely understand when we talk about different climate-related things or that are global quite often, or when we talk about transportation, this is a very planning-related, or housing, affordable housing. It is a very planning-related things, and we want to be sure that we have all possible angles that will, that define the trend. Because sometimes we talk about like quite often we talk about affordable housing crisis, but it's not we don't talk about just like it's affordable housing crisis. We talk about this is how to connect affordable housing crisis with different trends and new things that happen in demographics, for example. And this is what we explore in this recent trend report, how our society is changing and bringing us new challenges with housing. As a result, how our household looks, how our family looks, and so on. So we try to first look at everything. It's overwhelming, but then this like narrowing down this way how we analyze, and then in the end we find things that are relevant for all planners in the US, no matter where they are. However, it can be different angles how they look at in their geography, in their community. That's why we say prioritized trend. It might be not the water, for example, might be not the problem for many communities on the East Coast, but when I traveled to Nevada last year, the 2/3 of their local conference is about water, yeah. And you're like, okay, this is probably the most important trend for them now, and so on.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on the chat or in the room have any other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you again for coming to
Perfect.
talk to us at the University of Maryland virtually. And thank you. And we look forward to seeing the next
Thank
Foresight
you.
report.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Yep, nice to meet
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye.